Hello everybody, it's Bill Slocum. And in this short video of my introduction to the National Park Service ArcGIS Online for Organizations subscription, I'm going to talk about customizing your web map display. But before we get into the demonstration, just some housekeeping. Neither the National Park Service nor NC State University endorses or recommends any commercial products, processes, or services. This material may not be used for advertising or product endorsement purposes. This material is intended for educational purposes only. Neither the U.S. government nor NC State University warrants or assumes any legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, completeness, or usefulness of any information, apparatus, product, or process disclosed. So, customizing your web map display. This is a very important part of creating a well-informed web map to provide to other people at your park or within the organization. And I want to focus on a couple of things, three things here: your layer order, changing the styles of your data, and examining some more options such as renaming your layer. Now, as a reminder, how do you get to the National Park Service ArcGIS Online for Organizations website? Open your browser and go to https://nps.mats.arcgis.com. Okay, let's get started. You can see here, I have logged in with my PIV card, just as you would, by going to the website that I mentioned. And I'm going to go into my content. Now, as you may have heard me say before, and as is recommended, compartmentalize your data and all your content. Put it in folders so it's easy to categorize and know which project you're working on, and also apply some tags and filters. But I want to work on my base map that I would provide to other people in the park. And it's got, you can see here, Land Resources Division data in it that I've added. I've got my interpretive signs and my parkway kilometer markers. Well, I know what those are, but not everybody may. Let's open that up in our map viewer. Yeah, go ahead and open that. And you can see that all the data is going to come up. Now, layer order is very important. The layers draw from the bottom up. So if it'll draw the kilometer markers and then put the signs on top of it, and then the tracks on top of that, and the boundary on top of that. So you can see here that some of my data is obscured by the park boundary. So I can simply grab, you see when I roll over or hover over this layer, I can drag it down. Now this can get kind of tricky, and it didn't work the first time, so I'm going to go into the more and just move it down. There we go. That makes it a little bit easier. And don't forget, you've got these more options. We'll get back to one of those a little bit. But if you notice my map display, now my points are on top of my polygons, and which comprise the park boundary. So I've got my layer order set so that it draws as I would want. Well, let's change the style. And you see that underneath the layer here, there are several items like show legend. I could also show the attribute table down here. I'm going to close that. And you have the change style, a filter. I'm not going to get into that one. And we also have a cluster points. Now that's a really cool tool. I suggest you take some time to explore that tool. But I want to change the style of my kilometer markers. I like the signs as they are. Everyone in my park knows that they are going to be that color, but my kilometer markers, I want to change that style, because I uploaded this data, this feature layer, as a shapefile. So I have to go in and change it the way I want it to be. This was the little red was the default. Now, I'm just going to use a single location. I could symbolize by these different attributes, but I just want to show location only. And you can see that I have the symbol here. I can adjust transparency and a visible range if I wanted to. I suggest you take some time to explore that as well. But let's focus on these symbols here. And this is going to be a kilometer marker, so I'm going to make it just a black diamond here. And you can see that I could increase the size if I were to care to, or decrease the size. Now these are the shapes. You can see that through the drop down there are a lot of different categories you can choose from. Take the time to look at these different categories and choose the symbology that is right for you in your park. So I'm going to make it this black diamond and say okay. And you can see here that it looks a little large, so maybe I want to scale it down a little bit more. It is trial and error, and you're going to have to work on this as you go through to see what is right for you and what is appropriate for your park. And I'm going to say okay. And one more time, done. So let's look at the legend. So now you can see that my interpretive signs are these little brown circles. My markers on the parkway are black diamonds. And my lands data, which was supplied by the Land Resources Division, has symbolized their data in the way that they deem appropriate. So I'm not going to alter that. Let's go back to the content, because I don't like these names. And this seems to be extra long. So let's go back into the content. Remember I said there's the more options? Well, there it is, the ellipsis. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to simply say rename and give this an appropriate name. Let's just say colonial signs, or just signs. You could type in what you need to make sure that it's appropriate. And I'm going to say okay. Now you can see that I have something that is more understandable, signs. With the kilometer markers, I'm going to go in there and just say rename. And I'm going to say parkway markers. And say okay. Now let's see what we can do about this lands data here. Can I rename that? Well, they have given me that option to do so. So I'm just going to take all of this out and park boundary and leave it at that. I could put in provided by lands, provided by Land Resources Division, and say okay. Now let's look at the legend. You know what? I am going to save early, save often. There we go. Don't want anything to happen to my work, like the internet connection going down, or maybe ArcGIS Online has a hiccup. So if we go to the legend, now you can see that my legend has something that is more intuitive, and it's much easier for my audience to read. So that's a good way to customize your web map display. Again, there are a lot more options that you can take a look at under the more options here, and working with configuring your pop-ups, which we've already talked about. You can set transparency to data that has a fill if you would like to do that. And you can also set this visibility range, which would be good if you don't want to clutter your map and you only want to see data when you zoom in. So let's take a look at that just for fun. Set visible range. I'm going to set it not at the world level, but at a small building level. And now you can see they disappeared. And if I hold the shift key and draw a box, you can see that they are still not appearing. Let's zoom in and let's just see if we can find one. Well, there's one right there. Well, nope, they're still not visible because see, it's grayed out. So that tells me that I really do need to bump that up. Whoops, I really need to bump that up. Let's go to a neighborhood and say okay. And now you can see that it is no longer grayed out, and I can see that. So I can change the layer name, I can change the layer order, I can change the symbology, and I can set a transparency and a scale in which the actual data appears. I'm going to remove that because I don't want a visibility range. This is my base map, and I want it to be always be available. Come back out to the extent of my park, save my map, and I'm all done customizing my web map display. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.